everybody. I'm your host, Jaime Soretta. On this podcast, we celebrate everything local in Arizona. And our next guest loves to bring the community together at his festivals and his bar. So I'd like to introduce David Taita of Barcoa Agaveria, the Phoenix Pizza Festival, Taco Festival at Salt River Fields. You giggled because I worked my way over Agaveria. Did I hit it right, David?
You got it right. Not like Siri, who's constantly saying Agaveria. Drives me nuts because then it gets in my head and I can't get it out.
I fixate on pronunciations. Okay, so say the name of your bar just for the people so they know.
So Barcoa, see now I can't say it. It's Agaveria.
Agaveria. Barcoa Agaveria.
Well, now it's sounding Italian. Oh. But would you like a little fresh Agaveria?
I would, indeed. Extra. Say when, right? Say when. Okay, so Barcoa is located where?
First Avenue and Roosevelt.
And is this your first storefront kind of fixture that you've had? Because I think of you as the festival guy over the years.
Yeah, everything else I've ever built doesn't exist. You know, you throw a festival and then poof, it's gone. It's like it never happened. But this place, it exists.
Okay. How long ago did you create it?
Signed the lease in January 2020. Started construction March of 2020, the day everything went down. And then sat on the lease for about a year, and we opened November 21. So we're going to have our 3rd year anniversary this November.
Oh, how exciting. You're throwing a party, right?
Yeah, we haven't had our grand opening yet.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm thinking of doing
really?
that. Yeah, the beauty of not having a grand opening is if anything ever goes wrong, I can just say to a guest, we're still in our soft opening phase. Give us some time. We'll figure
It's friends and family. What are you doing here?
Yeah, right. So yeah, we'll have a party at some point. It's just going to be our grand opening.
Oh, how wonderful! For 3 years, and you're located exactly where at Barcoa?
So in that tricky intersection between Central and First Avenue on Roosevelt. So Roosevelt Row is the arts district, and we're right in the outskirts of that in downtown Phoenix. And we're in this historic building that's tucked behind that radio station building that's at the corner of Central and Roosevelt.
So that's what you want to look for your landmark.
This red brick building. Yeah, right. You want to look for the radio station building. And then we're tucked back like facing the alley.
Yeah.
You know?
Alley cats.
Exactly. So our cantina, which is on the ground floor, literally the garage door faces the alley. You know Julian Wright, who owns a bunch of places downtown.
On Mill Ave. He was on the podcast,
He came in like right after we opened and the garage door was open and he saw this is probably not a good thing to say. It's not going to get guests through the door, but he's like, you know, I see the barbed wire, I see the gunshots in the building next to you, and I see like all the grit outside. Most bars have to pay to get that kind of decoration. And for you guys, it's all natural, facing the alley, you know?
With the history of Phoenix. God bless you. How fun. So was there a reason that you chose that space?
The universe, man. It just listening to the universe, honestly. So I made a joke to a friend that I wanted to open a bar in a basement, not get a liquor license, sell shots for cash, and go to jail, and that would be my legacy, opening a true speakeasy, right?
You have a liquor license, though.
Yeah. And so he's like, I know about a basement. So we went over and we looked at it. We didn't have a real estate broker. We didn't have a business. We weren't going to be bar owners.
Yeah.
And so we just went and looked at the basement, and it was like the universe just said, you should build a bar here.
Yeah.
Like I literally wasn't looking to be a bar owner. We hadn't looked at other places. We didn't.
Oh my gosh.
So this building, it's not that we chose it. It sounds really cliche to say, but it's like it chose us.
Well, who is this instigator friend of yours?
Ryan Oberholzer.
Oh, I met him. He's in business, your business partner.
Yeah, correct. He owns Provecho. It was the taco shop inside the Churchill, and now it's a food truck outside the bar.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about when you walk into Barcoa, because now as you say all these things, my memory is being triggered. We did a local love there. It is an ode to tequila and the history of tequila and how it's created. You really did extensive study, and you now do tequila tastings, 2-hour tastings with people, walking them through the different, I guess, brands and tastes and types you can have. But when you walk in, you have the cantina, and then what do you call when you go down into the basement, right?
That's actual Barcoa. So that's the craft cocktail lounge. That's sort of
downstairs?
Yeah, in the basement. That's sort of the flagship, as it were.
The elevated.
Correct. You can make a reservation. It's seated service, meaning a server comes to your table.
Yeah.
40-page menu. It's leather bound, a little more focus on education and talking about the spirits themselves. Whereas upstairs in the cantina, it's bar service. it's like a classic margarita for $10, a classic Paloma for 12. And downstairs, it's like everything's just a little more elevated.
Right.
Which is kind of funny. I never really thought about that. You're going down, but yet it's elevated.
going up, going down.
Right.
And then right next to the cantina, you are adjacent to a business that has really cool artwork too.
Yeah, it's called Chico. So they're a Latinx and indigenous community arts organization. They started in mid-70s, 1975. And when Ryan and I went to go look at this basement, we called the real estate broker, and it turned out that there was an arts organization over on Buckeye that was looking at the ground floor space. And we went and we met them for tacos over at the Churchill.
Where all good decisions and conversations where things are hashed out.
And number one, we all fell in love with each other. It was like a match made in heaven. We're like, well, let's good cop, bad cop each other on the lease deal. We're not going in unless the art gallery goes in. And the art gallery was saying, well, we want a bar. And so the art gallery didn't want the back 1,000 square feet of their space. So we took it, and that's how the cantina was born. We were just going to be a basement bar.
Oh, you were just going after that space.
And so it like just, I'm telling you, the universe, it was so wild how it was like Chico didn't want to rent 7,000 square feet. And, we kind of needed an entrance to the bar, and the cantina turned out to be that. Like we didn't plan any of this.
Yeah, but it all goes together.
Yeah.
The whole vibe goes together, and then it goes with the, walk in, have a margarita, throw a Dos Equis down your throat or whatever, and then get ready to have some education, appreciate some art, and really just kind of absorb everything.
Yeah, so our place is very much built on storytelling and keeping a cultural history behind the men and women who produce agave spirits, keeping that history alive. And so it's art in a bottle, essentially. And it sounds cliche, but it's like right next door, you've got art on the walls. And with it being all Latin and indigenous artists, it's like the whole building just sort of speaks to culture, to place, to like familial history, to different times, and not just recognizing a time before there were borders between the U.S. and Mexico, but our indigenous past. And it's so important to recognize that sort of shared history and just keeping those stories alive. It's kind of wonderful.
Yeah. And it's wonderful that it all vibes together. So it creates just a beautiful experience for people. You're not from Phoenix, are you? Where are you from?
Chicago, originally.
How'd you end up here?
Went to ASU. It was the only school I got into. It was my safety school. So funny.
Go Devils! That's how we got you.
They were the only ones that would take me. It was so funny.
Well, obviously, I always say great decisions are made at ASU, and people who attend ASU are great decision makers. And then we got to get you here, lure you here for that ASU degree. What did you study?
My God, humanities.
Oh my gosh.
And art theory.
Well, this is why you have a bar that's associated with all this stuff.
Exactly. Do you remember? So I'll never forget. Everybody would always say, humanities? What are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
And I was like,
humanities.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And now it turns out I use that degree every single day.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy because it's really, humanities is essentially being able to kind of do anything, anywhere, at any time. Like it's the history of ideas, right? And just how it all gels together.
Wow.
And so there it is, putting together a great mezcal with a great painting on the wall, with a trip that our staff went on down in Mexico, with our experience in this building to downtown Phoenix, putting all that together in a story and just finding those common threads. That's humanities, right?
Have you talked to the kids over at ASU? They didn't invite you over there.
I don't have anything to teach anybody.
I don't know. What you just told me, I think, is a beautiful lesson that you could do a lot with this degree and kind of the different outreach and how you still are teaching them humanity.
Yeah, kids should be doctors. They'll make more money.
Okay, let's talk about. We originally met with you being the festival guy here in town. We'd interview you a lot on GMAS with the Pizza Fest, with the Taco Fest. But let's. I want to dig into the tequilas and really what made you fall in love with tequila and how you really studied them for your bar.
Yeah. So 2010, I started throwing food festivals in town. The first one was the Arizona Barbecue Festival. Then the second one was the Arizona Taco Fest. And so my old partner and I, we grew that event to about 40,000 people at Salt River Fields, the Taco Fest. And he wanted to move Taco Fest to Westworld, and I didn't. And so I sold my half of Taco Fest to Westworld and to him, right? And so I have what's called a non-compete. So I couldn't throw a taco festival for a bunch of years. And I got kind of depressed. I'm like, well, if I'm not taco guy, who am I? You know what I mean? Like,
then you became pizza guy?
Well, I had been throwing Pizza Fest. Pizza Fest was always my mistress on the food side. You know what I mean? Like tacos were my spiritual center, my North Star, they're my rock. And pizza was just my good time.
Yeah.
You know?
Friday night.
My dirty Friday night. Totally. And so I was noticing during this time of not being able to throw a taco fest that all I was drinking were agave spirits, tequila, mezcal. And I was learning about them. And whenever I would learn something about them, the information would stick. And so I would learn about wine or learn about beer or whiskey, and none of that information would ever stick. But for some reason, the story of tequila, mezcal, agave spirits would always stick. And I think it's because so much of it is tied to cultural history. So you're not just talking about fermentation and distillation and you know, the processes of how you roast, like all of that nerdy stuff. Like, yeah, that's there. But you're also talking about, well, this guy was making the spirit for 4 generations and he was never a brand. And this is the village that he was from. And by the way, he also makes all the apple cider for his town. So he's known as the mezcalero and the apple cider guy. You know what I mean? Like that, those sorts of stories. And they were just so much more interesting. And so when I made the joke to Ryan about selling shots of tequila for cash, and then it turned out Ryan has a business in Guadalajara. He's raised his twin daughters there. His family, they lived down there for many years. It's like both of us just started talking about how can we, as two guys who want to share a culture that is not ours by birthright, how can we do that better? How can we do better than the person who just takes a sugar skull decal, puts it on the wall and says, look, I own a Mexican taco shop. No offense to anybody, you know, but we just wanted to, like, in our heart and soul, like
pay proper homage,
right? And so that's how I fell in love with it all, you know. And then obviously I just love the taste, you know, like, you know, like just drinking mezcal to me is just, you know.
You like the smoky, because that's smoky, right?
It can be, you know, after a while you start to not notice the smoke so much. Smoke tends to then become, it should just be like a flavor element in a larger, like sort of package, you know. But if you're just getting a smoke bomb, that just sounds like somebody's kind of cutting corners and making mezcal real fast. Or it's great for a margarita.
What happens at your tequila tastings? Is this like a wine tasting, or do we have a little spittoon?
I mean,
are we sipping and like smelling and swirling?
Yeah. It's very similar to a wine tasting, although these, to borrow a phrase from another podcast who goes by this name, we call them agave road trips. So we travel through Mexico and we tell the stories of places and times as we sip different things, but they're truly custom. So there's a form on our website you fill out and you check boxes like, I want to drink all tequila, or I want to drink all mezcal, or I want to try a little bit of everything. And then we respond with questions like, what do you normally drink? You know, so that we get an idea of your likes and dislikes. And then they're truly custom little experiences, you know? And we just drink for 2 hours, like little sips of things. We start with a minimum of 7 spirits. And I always say we'll drink as many as the group is fun. And how much the group is into it, you know? Like, we've got you for 2 hours. And if there's somebody at the end of the table who is a bourbon drinker, well, maybe I have a tequila that is aged in bourbon barrels that I want you to try, and now let's talk about it. And then somebody's like, well, wait, I'm a gin drinker, and I've got something that tastes like gin, and we can just kind of go little sips. So if you've ever heard of omakase at a sushi bar, that means that you're in the chef's hands. You know, like you're just going to eat until you throw in the towel. This is similar in the sense that we're just going to try things, for a set fee. And it's like, you don't have to worry about the transaction, the price. It's a preset price. And then we'll just drink.
How much is it?
We'll just drink $100 to $150 per person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I asked because holidays are coming up. People might be thinking about, people want to gift experiences more these days than things.
Yeah.
So what a beautiful way to, if your family's coming back in town or college buddies, to have that experience together. And then that's the story everyone tells. Like, I learned this piece of information, or I fell in love with this mezcal I never knew I enjoyed. And then you said tequila is mezcals, which I thought mezcal was a tequila. So obviously I'm wrong.
So some say that all tequila is mezcal, but not all mezcal is tequila. I don't necessarily subscribe to that logic.
Okay.
But the thing is, the word mezcal comes from an ancient language that it translates to cooked agave. And so that means that anything that is an agave spirit is technically a mezcal, right? Like even tequila. But back in the day, before there were things called denominations of origins, it was all called vino de mezcal, the wine of cooked agave, right? And then they started making a type of mezcal out of a certain plant called the blue Weber agave and around the town of Tequila. And so then that became vino de mezcal de tequila, so the wine of mezcal of tequila. And then tequila receives what's called a denomination of origin in the 70s. And so now that creates this drink that we know to be as tequila. And so it has a rule book in the sense that the common analogy is, think of champagne. Champagne can only come from Champagne, France in order to be called that. Otherwise, it's sparkling wine. Tequila is similar. It can only come from 5 states in Mexico. It mostly comes from Jalisco. And it has a certain way that it has to be produced. Whereas mezcal has another denomination of origin. It can come from 9 different states, and it has to be produced in a different way. So in that sense, that's why I don't believe that all tequila is mezcal, because tequila is produced differently than mezcal, but some would say it's all mezcal because it's all smoked agave. You just started to fall asleep. I'm like, this is why I should have brought some mezcal.
I was listening to you and thinking about your time at ASU studying humanities and how you have become such a great teacher. And how much you have learned and how much it just flows off your tongue and your memory. And this is stuff from the heart. So how cool is that? Right?
I appreciate you saying that.
I wasn't falling asleep. I was just going off into my, oh my gosh, how cool is this moment?
It's fascinating. It's fascinating also because it's never going to end.
Yeah, continue to evolve.
There's no way to know it all.
Yeah.
And mezcal and tequila and all of it is a living, breathing thing. So it's changing while I'm growing and learning more.
The climate's changing.
And all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a mezcal festival down in Tucson called Agave Heritage Festival every April.
Do you go?
And while it's not in the past 2 years because I've had this stupid French fry festival that I've been doing, and it always ends up the same weekend.
Oh, really?
So I'm not going to do French fry festival anymore because I want to go to Agave Heritage Festival.
Is that the
truth? that's the real reason.
Oh, okay, all right.
The truth
no more
comes out.
French fry festival.
The Agave Heritage Festival, it is what it sounds. It's a big party, a lot of tasting and the whole thing, but it's also a great place to get into the nitty gritty of sustainability in the category, some of the environmental impacts. So as we drink more and more tequila and mezcal, we might be harming rivers and streams and affecting biodiversity and affecting like natural habitats and things like that. I went to an interesting seminar, was actually in the art gallery next to Barcoa, that talked about, there's a spirit called Bacanora, which is mezcal made in the state that is our neighbor, Sonora, right? So just south of us in Mexico. And it was illegal to produce Bacanora for many years. And so if it's illegal to produce, that means all of these agave plants are not getting harvested at the right time. And the way a lot of these agaves reproduce is by shooting up a quiote, which is that stalk that comes out of an agave, and they carry these seeds. And then bats and birds come and they pollinate and they take those seeds off, and that's how the agave reproduce. But if you're not managing the growth and the harvesting of those plants, then those plants die. And then the bats don't have a food source. And then the bats' predators don't have a food source. And so by the government making a decision that Bacanora would be illegal to produce, you're actually affecting wildlife populations. And so you can nerd out with things like that
Yeah.
at places like the Agave Heritage Festival, but you can also get great margaritas. And so that's kind of the fun of this whole thing is it's like I'm learning, I'm scratching that intellectual itch,
Yeah, for sure.
but I'm also drinking at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you know?
The margarita makes it go down real. Are you drinking a marg at these events, or are you sipping just with a cube of ice?
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah.
I'm a professional drinker now. I like to try it all.
What is it that what is your go-to right now? Like just today's go-to.
Okay, so I have an event at the bar tonight. A voting rights organization is having a networking event.
Yeah.
So at about 5 o'clock, I'm going to have a thing called a carajillo, which is a classic 2-ingredient cocktail that is half espresso and half liquor 43, which is a Spanish herbal liqueur that has 43 herbs and spices in it. A lot of baking spices like cinnamon and clove and baking spices. And so, and a little orange slice on top of that. It's a Spanish cocktail that they drink all over Mexico. And it's the perfect like mid-afternoon. I need a little pick-me-up. I still want to go to sleep at like before midnight.
Nothing crazy.
And I still want to have a drink that just sort of winds me down. But liquor 43 is low alcohol.
Oh, really?
So I can still get through my shift. I can still work and network and you know what I mean?
What is this cocktail called?
It's called a carajillo.
Okay, I need to have one of those. I need to come by and have one.
Yeah, you definitely.
So we talked about the Fry Festival is no longer.
Yeah.
But coming up soon, we have the Taco Festival making its big comeback. You and I talked a lot during the pandemic when events were just put out. I mean, nothing could happen. We had you on TV with us a lot via Zoom, talking about how you would get through. And now tell me about the resurgence of the Taco Festival, what we can expect.
Yeah. So a Facebook memory just popped up today of the red light for events, if you remember, because we were all lobbying for financial aid because the live events industry was so taken down. And so throwing events then once we all came back in 21 was so special.
Yeah.
And so Taco Fest went away after the change up in ownership. And so now the weekend is available at Salt River Fields, which is where we always threw the Taco Fest. And we're just calling it Taco Fest. It's not Arizona. It is not the Arizona Taco Festival. It's a new version, but it's essentially the return in the sense that it's myself and there was a girl who was our director of operations who's now my partner in these festivals, Lisa Duffield. And so she and I returning to Salt River Fields on the same weekend. We're so like overjoyed that we get the opportunity to recreate a thing that existed. Because Taco Fest, if you had ever gone, you knew it was kind of like an annual tradition in Arizona. Like around that time, it still might be 100, but 100 feels different at the end of October. You're like, oh, we're going outside now.
I do remember bringing a hoodie with me.
Yes.
And it comes on and off, on and off, on and off all day, depending if you're in your shade or not. But I mean, what, 40 plus vendors? How many different people do you have out there?
Yeah, about 40 is the goal this year. So we're not looking to bring it back at the scale that we left off. You know, I don't want to jump in with 40,000 and 70 food trucks and all these bells and whistles. This is going to be really hyper focused on the food, the sounds, the drinks, like just the good customer attendee experience. You know, I'm working with Corrido Tequila, which Brian Robb is a local guy who is
he's been around a long time.
Yeah, he owns Tequila Corrido, and he helped us produce the first Taco Fest, the Tequila Expo. And Brad Hoover, who created Tequila Corrido back in 2010, was one of our first liquor sponsors.
Oh, wow.
So it's so back to this whole universe thing.
And Olivia.
Yeah,
we have to mention Olivia, right? You can't talk about the brand without her. Yeah.
I was probably on air in 2010 talking about the first Taco Fest with Olivia. And it's like now she owns a brand that is sponsoring the return of Taco Fest. It's just, sometimes it's just so fascinating to be reminded that you are where you're supposed to be, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. So we're definitely going to look forward to that. That's October 19th and 20th over at Salt River Fields, as you said. Let's talk about Pizza Festival, because if you can't go in October, you've got pizza for us in November the 16th and 17th. And that's over at Hans Park every year, right?
Yeah, yeah. The beauty of Pizza Fest is nothing ever changes. It's the same beautiful, mid-sized little community pizza party
Yeah.
in a city park in downtown Phoenix.
Hance Park is so cool, though.
It's just so wonderful.
Yeah.
It's that park that's over the I-10, over the deck park.
Tunnel.
Yeah,
I think it's the
exactly.
only tunnel, they say, in the valley, maybe. The
Oh,
deck
really?
tunnel.
Didn't know that. It's interesting.
I remember driving through as a little kid, and my dad was always lay on the horn in the tunnel. Like, oh my gosh, how cool. Anyhow, I digress.
Yeah.
But now, you're literally on top of that tunnel eating pizza with your friends.
Yeah, it's just downtown Phoenix is so special because you could park a couple blocks away, walk to Wilderness or Pedal House, get a beer before or after. You know what I mean? Like, go check out some of the local shops. It's so great that it's a festival that's not at this scale that you're like parking in a parking lot and walking to the festival and that is the destination.
Right.
That's great in its own right. But Pizza Fest is just a different, cool, little groovy thing. Have you been?
Yeah, I've been to Pizza Fest. What is it about bringing community together in a festival that you love so much?
So this is going to sound cliche when I say this, honestly. I think it's because I'm an old Deadhead. So I used to follow the Grateful Dead in the summers in between during college.
Do go on.
That whole idea of diversity, and diversity is just my North Star. And when you look around at a festival, when it's a thing like pizza or a thing like tacos, it's not an exclusive food group. The ticket is $15 to get in. So you see every demographic, you see every type of group of people, like families and just friends looking to party and couples on dates and the whole thing. And just seeing everybody together in one place, you don't see that very often unless it's like a major sporting event or just something that has a lot of corporate backing, So like just on a small community level, it's special when that happens.
Bring all the people together in one place.
That's the idea.
For the love of pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't love pizza?
I know. We talked about this. And what was that live shot? Was I wearing a pizza outfit on GMAS?
So
I vaguely remember.
A pizza necklace, maybe like a thing that held a slice. But I also know I have a picture of you trying to put a slice of pizza in your pocket. And so when this comes out, I'll have to post this on the Pizza Fest Instagram. I got to dig that one out.
Yeah.
But
oh, my gosh.
That was a fun segment.
We've had fun on live TV before. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
It's never boring.
It never is boring. On this podcast, I really like to talk about how people make the jump and become an entrepreneur. So you said you studied humanities and art?
Art theory
at ASU. So what happened next?
So I'm moving back to Chicago. I'm ready to pack my stuff up in my car and make the long drive. And I see an ad in the college newspaper, the State Press, for a magazine editor at the Ritz-Carlton magazine.
Sounds
and I'm
great.
Like, what?
Not qualified, but still applying,
Totally.
Right?
I applied. I interned. I was hired within a week.
Oh, wow.
And I stayed. And I became a magazine editor for 10 years.
Oh, my gosh.
I worked on the Ritz-Carlton magazine. It was like a custom publisher. We did a lot of like that sort of stuff that's like not really on newsstands. And then I moved to Las Vegas to be the editor of Las Vegas magazine.
Ooh, that must have been fun.
City magazine. That was way fun.
Yeah.
Because like I got key to the city. And this was at the time when all the celebrity chefs were starting to open restaurants there.
So you met everyone.
Yeah. And got to just eat a lot of great stuff. And,
who was a jerk? Who was awesome?
Nobody's a jerk, Jamie. Everybody's wonderful.
All right. Who was your favorite?
I'll never forget the 87 course meal at Joël Robuchon.
Oh.
So, like the French chef, 4.5 hour.
Wow.
Every bite of food is like that,
Real small.
I mean, growing up in Chicago, my mom's side of the family is from Virginia. So like our food was just very humble, right? And just very Midwestern and all of that. And so to get to experience that was really special. And so, and so like right now, just eating so much street food, like tacos and pizza, that's my heart, right?
Yeah.
But it's nice to step outside of your comfort zone every once in a while. And so that's, I think, why that a meal like that stands out, because I don't do that often. Like when it's Lauren, my wife, and I's, like if it's one of our birthdays or if it's our anniversary, we're not going anywhere fancy. We're just like take me to the taco shop that's
really?
like right around the corner, you know what I mean? And just you're buying dinner because it's my birthday sort of thing. It's like, it's never anywhere that's a blowout meal. We just don't do that.
Yeah.
You know?
So where is your favorite taco shop?
It's always changing. I can't name one, but I do live right around the corner from Crujiente.
Oh, yes, yes.
Which is at 40th and Indian School. And I mean, I love that place because it's so inventive. It's just my neighborhood place. There's a million agave spirits behind the wall, and I've learned so much from Jason, the owner. But quick funny story. So Rich Hinojosa is the co-owner, right? So he's the chef over at that restaurant. He was the chef at the Wigwam Resort, okay? The Wigwam's marketing director signs them up to do Taco Fest back in like 2016, somewhere in there, 15. And I get a text from a chef in the parking lot saying, "Hey, I'm at your festival. I'm doing it, I guess. Can you come get me?" So I go with my golf cart, and Rich is like, I'm helping him load all of his cooking equipment out of his trunk. And he goes, "I hear there's a competition here. Like, what do I do with the competition?" I'm like, "Dude, the rules, it's like a 10-page document that we put together. And there's like training for it. And there's all these different categories and how you're scored is weighted and like the whole thing." And I'm explaining it all in the golf cart. And he goes on that time to win second place overall.
Oh my gosh.
And then he gets the itch and he enters and he wins the taco festival competition for like the next 2 years. So if you go to Crujiente, you just see a wall of awards. And this was pre-Crujiente. And I'll never forget that this guy like had no idea that there was a food competition and then won. In so many of these places, they're inviting me for like R&D sessions. Do you think the judges will like this? And like, you know what I mean? And this is not to like,
he just rolls
like talk smack about anybody else.
Of course
it
not,
just,
never.
It just goes to show that like when you got it, you got it. And this guy, like when I'm often like the sort of host for somebody who's writing a book or publishing a show, like producing a show or something, or doing a magazine article like nationally that is about the local taco scene. I might be the person that they call to like, we'll drive around and we'll go eat tacos.
Guy.
And I'm always taking them to Crujiente.
Yeah.
And 10 out of 10 times they're like, this doesn't exist anywhere nationally. Nobody's doing this.
Chef Rich.
That's it.
And Jason, who assists with the cocktails.
The whole place.
Yeah, the tequila.
And Jason's daughter, like seating people. Have you ever, like...
I didn't know.
She's so funny. And she's like 10. Yeah. She's probably 15 now. But she'll let you know, like, if you've been sitting at your seat too long. She's like, "We need this table, people." You know, like, it's so great.
I'm ordering another drink.
I know.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But they do. You have to get a lot. You know, sometimes you got to be there when they open because it gets a little bit of a line. It's a smaller place.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, like you said, a neighborhoody. The neighbors love it. And it is such a perfect little date night vibe, too.
Yeah. It's a great
spot of all of them. Okay, so what if I want a Rocky Point type taco? I just want like the cilantro with the onion and just some meat. And a fresh tortilla. Okay.
You're going to the farmer's market on the North Central Farmer's Market on Saturday mornings. There's a taco truck there called Estero Beach.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a good classic fried shrimp taco, you know, just the red cabbage and that aioli, and it's just got that Baja easy going. I'm gonna smash 2 tacos. I'm probably gonna go back for some more, but I'm never gonna feel stuffed from it. You know what I mean? Like I
got the big burrito from him last time.
I ordered the full
burrito.
Cali burrito with the French fries,
it was
probably. Yeah, God, I love a Cali burrito.
It was very good. Okay, so I'll try the taco next time.
Yeah.
It must be so fun what you're doing, and it, obviously a labor of love. I want to get back to you went through the magazine circuit. So Las Vegas was next. So how'd you get back to your home, Phoenix?
So old timers like me will remember a magazine called Desert Living here in town. It was like a modern architecture and lifestyle magazine. And I was the editor of that for its last 6 years. And it it started to go downhill when the recession hit around 2009, because a lot of our advertisers were developers and real estate brokers and that sort of thing. So once they start to pull out, the magazine goes away. And then I meet a friend who wants to start a food blog. And if you remember 2009, 2010, there were no food blogs. So we started one. And then we threw food. It wasn't making any money. We're like two grown men and we can't pay the rent, with a food blog. And so we threw a barbecue festival. And then... And then that was it. Once we threw a festival, we were like, I think there's something here. This is pretty cool. Yeah. And so then, that ended the magazine career. The magazine career is,
dead with the festivals.
Like about 10 years, and then that leads into festivals.
Magazine seems like they're making a big comeback. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Phoenix Magazine. I savor every page with Phoenix Mag, but it feels like more people are launching magazines these days.
I feel so vindicated that all this time when people were like, print is dead. And, there's like a core few of us who are like, no, it's not. Yeah. It's going to thin out the herd, but we're always going to want that tactile thing. And there's always going to be moments in our lives when we need that thing and we just don't want to look at a screen.
Yes.
It's not going away. It's just...
changing.
It's just changing.
Yeah. Yeah, and everything is.
Yeah, like radio isn't going away just because there's Sirius and streaming and all of that.
I mean, look, we're doing a podcast. We're doing radio.
Exactly.
They said radio was dead.
Exactly.
Video killed the radio star? Is that what that was? I mean, they've always been wrong. And I guess trends go round and round and round. So what's old comes back, and here we are.
Right.
But I do laugh about the podcast thing because I'm like, we're doing radio.
Right.
We're doing a talk radio show.
And it's great. This long form stuff, it's so great because somebody could be driving or just on the treadmill or just going for a walk or doing the dishes, whatever, and this is on in the background. And we
get to accompany them
commercial
as they do
breaks.
Something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like radio, it's like you've got all the damn noises coming with the commercials and you know what I mean? Like the whole thing. And it's like, yeah, this is nice. So
what would you tell someone who is trying to make a jump? They want to do something in the foodie life like you have or beverage. And so the Desert Living magazine kind of went away. And then you jumped into the festivals. As far as making a living, making the jump, owning your own business, doing your own thing, what would you advise people who want to do something like you?
So I've learned this now through bar ownership, like over the last 3 years. We don't lose many employees. Usually when we lose them, it's like because they've bought a pool company or they've They've made a career change, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I always find it kind of disheartening when somebody decides to leave somewhere and they don't say proper goodbyes to everybody in their network. I think it's important to remember that hopefully you're around for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's a small town and it's a small world. And you're always probably going to keep running into a lot of the people that you met early on. Just take the time to get to know someone, greet them with a smile, just make relationships because you don't know. Like I said, I've had a million careers over that time we've just talked about. And like so many people from the magazine world have transitioned. We would come into contact with each other in the festival world. And now in the bar thing, maybe they've changed careers, but they've got something else that can contribute to the bar or vice versa. I can help them out with something now that I'm a bar owner and am not the magazine person. You just never know where you're going to end up, So just be a nice person and make relationships with people. That's like the best advice I can give somebody.
In your paperwork you gave me, you specifically mentioned that that when you were growing up...
Was I drinking a margarita when I wrote this? How long ago did I write this?
I don't know, but let's look. Let's
you
dig
once
in.
said.
Let's dig in. You once said, and I quote, I never had a clique growing up. So I was always able to float between groups unlike anyone else. And this made me able to talk to anyone. And that was something that you really appreciate about what you can do in business, what you can do in friendships, what you can do in just your day is those relationships. And you bring that up again. So a relationship seemed to be a center point for you.
Yeah, so true. Also helps that I'm a Gemini.
Oh, yes.
I think.
Yes. But I'm a Gemini and I can be very shy sometimes.
Yeah, what is that, do you think?
I think I can be very outgoing and even aggressive when I need to be. As a reporter, you have to go after someone and chase after them sometimes with a microphone, and I will do it.
Yeah.
But other times I'm like, David, I'd like some ketchup. Could you ask for ketchup
Yeah,
for me?
I get the same way. I still haven't figured out why that happens.
See, so I double down on people who say, Gemini, you're two-faced. No. I have two faces. Which means, hey, if you're kind of over my aggressive loudness, I'll be very shy and quiet later.
Oh, right. I never really thought about it like that.
I'm not two-faced. They say Geminis are two-faced. We're not.
No, yeah. I always think of Gemini as being just malleable. Like we can sort of reflect the personality of the person we're talking to.
Yes.
And hopefully the goal is that we shine back the best parts of that person so that we're both growing, But
you're right to say Gemini is the wittiest of all signs.
Yeah, right.
I want to say
we're the best.
Yes.
That's that simple.
Now I just want to say I want to shine back your.
But I just the shy thing kind of bothers me sometimes. Like, why am I being like this?
Really?
You know what I mean? But you can't. It's like I just can't peg it. It's like, why sometimes can I just not get it together
and have nothing to say? For someone who talks for a living, sometimes I can have nothing to say in the situations where I should be helping guide the conversation.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
You know when I'm most shy is when
you are not eating a taco.
Well, kind of when I probably need to send something back to the kitchen. I can't do it.
No.
I can't do it.
I will never.
I will sit there and suffer and eat this piece of rubbery steak, and the server will come by, and I'm just like, it's wonderful. I love it. Yeah. I
think that's love of the people. I mean, I would never send anything back either. I wouldn't.
I can't.
Wouldn't.
I think I've done it twice maybe in my whole life. You know what else I can't do? Are these people that write 0 on the tip line when they have a bad experience?
Cash.
I can't do that. I can't. If I've had a horrible experience, 0, I mean, how bad is it really that you're like, somebody's probably going through something that you know nothing about, and you're just gonna,
See, you're a kind person, so that's you're a kind person who's kind to the people around you.
Oh, thank you.
So
thanks.
We need more of you around.
Appreciate that.
I don't know about those 0 people. God bless them. God bless them all, as I like to say.
Yeah. Do you follow Taco Guild on Instagram?
Oh no, I don't know if I do, but obviously I'm very familiar with them.
So they have new owners, and they read some of their bad Yelp reviews on their Instagram. I wish I had the cojones to do that. I mean, that's so wonderful.
They read them didn't that late night show do that?
Yeah, yeah.
And mean tweets.
Yes.
It's mean tweets.
Yeah.
And it's a hoot.
Right.
And it is kind of like, ouch.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that they do that, because it's like a way of not getting back at the person who wrote 0 on the tip line, but I guess it's kind of a way of getting back. Like, you're just like, come on.
Well, you're watching the person receive the message,
Right.
And I think that I can think of a couple of emails that were sent to me last week and this week where it's like, do you realize there's a person on the other side of that email? A human being. And I think that people forget because it's just a person on the screen or whatever,
Yeah.
And people forget that, like you said, someone might be going through something or whatever. And, 0 is pretty harsh.
Yeah, really harsh. We had a guy gave us a 1 star. He had some pretty legitimate complaints. It was just sometimes you miss.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I respond to every Yelp review, and we responded to this guy. We invited him back in. I was out of town, but Ryan, my partner, took good care of him. He amended his Yelp review and said, I met Ryan. It was so amazing. And he wrote me back and said, next time he's in the bar, he's going to buy me a drink.
Oh.
And it's like, that's the dream scenario. I hate this online Yelp stuff. I hate it.
Yeah.
But once in a blue moon, you can.
You win him over.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet this guy.
Nah, that's awesome.
Because he's clearly a good person because, obviously I wish he had asked for a manager instead of writing a 1-star review.
Right.
But if we can both turn it into a growth point, maybe I'll get a chance to say to him, bro, why didn't you ask for a manager?
Yeah.
Why did you go straight to the 1 star?
So that's a good point for people who do have like you said, a legitimate complaint. Just ask for the manager. They want to make it right.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to ask to send our food back. Maybe we need to ask.
If they're people like you and I'm not asking for a manager. I'd be like,
But I don't go home and type up a Yelp thing either. I don't do that. I just, quietly order something different the next time. And I often do think, they missed it that time. Let's try it again. I don't really hold it against them, especially if a place just opens. A lot of times it's like, I don't want to go and a place might just open because that's not going to be the impression
right
all the time.
Right.
So.
I do wish I had more time to like have fun with some of them though. Like some of the 1-star Yelp reviews.
Oh my.
Like we got one, it wasn't recent, but I'll never forget it, where somebody said we weren't playing any Latin music, so we're clearly just a gentrified Agaveria. Oh. And I so bad wanted to say, like, every bar we go to in Guadalajara is playing American rock music.
Oh, really?
You're
like, we studied this.
So if we were truly quote unquote authentic, then we would be playing American rock music. But we play Latin music, and you probably just caught us on a night when we were thinking, hey, let's put some hip hop or jazz or something else
on.
Some soul, like some funk. Just exactly. How do you know that like another guest wasn't like, hey, it's my birthday, can you guys play some funk? I'm really into it.
Oh my
it's just like, come on, you're gonna 1-star us just because we weren't playing Latin music.
Because the stars make a difference, right? On those Yelp reviews, they really they can bring you back a little, right?
Yeah,
with the ratings.
They
so it means a lot. So people need to realize that it weighs heavily.
Yes, exactly. I think it's important to, like, you can make a verbal complaint, but be very judicious with that actual star rating, because not many people read the words, but they see that star rating.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is true, but I feel like Yelp maybe weights the 1-stars a little higher, because it seems like, you can have like 50 5 and 4 stars, and then like 2 1-stars will just like drag you down, and you're like, how is that possible?
Their bell curve is a little sketchy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Yelp, we're on to you. David, when you're not working, what are you doing? What are you drinking? What are you eating? What are you loving in Arizona right now?
I guess that would be, I'm going to draw back to that question about what would my advice be.
Yeah.
Try and find something that truly makes it feel like you're not ever working. So when I'm eating tacos, I'm eating pizza, I'm drinking margaritas over a crew, I'm working, but I'm also not working because I'm learning about this stuff. You know what I mean? So there's really no on or off time. Like eating is truly Lauren and I's hobby.
Yeah.
It's just truly our hobby. Like the list of places, we have a shared list of places, and it's miles long because we can't keep up.
Who's next on your list that you have not been to yet, that you're eyeing, that you're like, how do we get in there? Or that's just the one you haven't been to yet?
There's a million, but what I can tell you, where I'm probably going after this podcast, is right next door to your studio here. It's a little place called Hatchet.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, right next door. So they were emailing about doing the festival. They've had some questions and they haven't turned in their form yet. So I'm going in there to be like, turn in that paperwork. I got to get you in Taco Fest because that green chili pork that they have over there is phenomenal. So I'm going to go over there and find out who Kelly is, because Kelly is the person who is, who was like emailing the questions. And I'm going to say, where's Kelly? I want to answer your questions. And also I want a burrito.
Yes, there you go. I'll tell you, one of our very long time camera guys and directors, Mario, he works on GMAS. And I saw him this morning and he was walking back into the building and he had a little bag with him. I go, what is this? Because, I'm nosy, of course. Yeah. And he goes, I got smothered fries over at Hatchet. I mean, it's one of those things where you just walk next door. It's a 5-minute round trip on foot trip for us.
Right.
And he got the smothered French fries and he said they were delicious.
Right.
So maybe get some of those too.
That's good to hear.
Report back.
I love it.
They are.
What about the pizza place right next door to it? Have you had that pizza?
Oh, yeah.
Is it good?
I did a story on them, I think, after the pandemic, because the gentleman I interviewed had been working on a sourdough. You know how everyone's doing sourdough. So the dough is delicious. So the pizza's great.
Right on. Is it like New York style or is it just sort of?
This is a good question. I remember there being a very long cheese pull.
Long cheese pull.
So, I mean, that's a win.
You get AZ Foodie out there to do the cheese. She's the queen of the cheese pull. I see her videos and it's like, are you asking them to put something in the cheese? Because I try that in videos and it just sort of like flops apart. And then it's like these food bloggers.
I mean, it must be timing.
Right. Yeah,
the
right.
timing.
Like it can't
Camera
be too
eats
hot,
first.
can't be too
Camera
cold.
Camera always eats first.
Right.
When I go to dinner with her, I always know. Are we eating yet? Okay, then. And then I have to be ready because I know it's like the camera might turn on me. Oh, hi.
Right. That looks like a tough gig.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
She's made a great life for herself. I mean, she was doing this before it even became a thing.
She was my intern.
Are you kidding me?
At the
Where?
food blog we started.
Oh.
It was called Eater AZ.
Oh, my
I'm not kidding.
gosh.
She helped out with a couple of our festivals. And now I hire her to, help promote some of my festivals. She's amazing because, like, she's all in.
Yes, she is.
And
she has a heart for the people like you do. She really cares about the people who are putting on these festivals or the people who are, cooking the food, the chefs and owners. And especially during the pandemic, she was trying to raise money for them as much as possible.
Yeah, that was incredible with the tip jar thing. Yeah,
she was on top of it. Yeah, she's got a big heart for them, just like you.
Oh, thank you
David
so much.
Tina, thank you so much for being with us today. Barcoa Agaveria. Yes?
That was great. I
had to get it right. And then, of course, we have the Taco Festival, which is coming up at Salt River Fields, October 19th and 20th. And then the 9th annual Phoenix Pizza Festival, November 16th through the 17th. So we hope to see everybody out there. David, thank you.
So great to see you. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Jamie's Local Love, the podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Soretta. Our technician is Tom Heidinger. Our editors are Lorraine Shearing and Gina Coy. Do you know a business worthy of some local love? Email me at jsoretta@azfamily.com. Follow us at facebook.com/Soretta and Instagram @SorettaNews. Make sure to subscribe and give us a 5-star review, please. And tell your friends about the podcast and the businesses we feature to show your local love. You can find us on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you get your podcasts.
Jamie's Local Love, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.